today? How y'all doing today?
You,
Y'all, it
don't
is
start
nippy.
yapping yet. It's not ready.
It's nippy.
Don't start yapping yet, ma'am.
It's nippy.
Yeah,
It's little.
she's a yapper.
It's nippy. Y'all,
She's a yapper.
it is nippy. Okay,
She's a yapper.
but your girl
She's a yapper.
will be.
Thank y'all for the one like already.
Y'all,
For the
it's
one like
time.
already. All right,
Y'all, it's time.
you're
It's time.
live.
It's time, y'all. It's time.
Stop yapping. A second. Can I see something? Hold on.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Hold on.
Don't tell me to be
Be
quiet,
quiet a
man.
second.
No,
Hold on.
sir. Get on that. King Zachariah be
Can you
cutting
be
up.
quiet a second?
Tell King Zachariah get on out of here. He gonna tell me to be quiet,
Baby.
but he's supposed to be get on now.
Seriously, I'm trying to see is it. I'm trying to see is it doing the right thing.
It's doing the right thing. Get
Hold
on now,
on.
y'all. King Zachariah. What you trying to see?
Hold on. Stop talking a second, baby.
He's still telling me to stop talking, y'all. What's wrong with him? See you later, sir.
Hold on a second. Trying to make sure it's not.
It's not what. So I'm just gonna sit here and move.
I'm trying to make sure it's not skipping.
It's not skipping. Am I skipping, y'all? Can y'all hear me? Or am I skipping, y'all? Let me know. Y'all. I think he just want to be seen for a minute.
No, look, man. It's
It's always slower on here, man. Turn
okay.
it
I'm just
down.
making sure.
Turn it down. Yeah, he want to be seen. He want to be
I
seen
do
for a
not want
minute.
to be seen.
He want to be seen.
If that's the
Telling
case,
me to be quiet.
If that's the case, I'll
King
be over
Zachariah
there.
be cutting up,
If
y'all.
that's the case, I'll be over there sitting with you.
King Zachariah be cutting up, y'all. Okay? How y'all doing today? Y'all, it's cold. Okay? It's like, let me see. I don't want to be wrong. Last time I looked, it was 21 degrees, okay? It was 21. Let's see what it is now. Because it's definitely done dropped, okay? It definitely done dropped. Now it's 19, okay? 19 degrees outside, okay? 19. And your girl's a little nippy, okay? So I had to pull out my old trusty. And then I had to put this on there so none of that I can get through there, y'all. Because your girl be cold. Your girl be cold. But, y'all, is y'all ready? Because I'm ready to see what else going to happen. I am. Where did we leave off at? Can anybody tell me in the chat where we left off at, y'all? Where did we leave off at? Your girl ain't been on here for a while, so where did we leave off? Let me see. I know how to figure it out. Okay. I ain't gonna even let y'all think that I know. Cause I don't, y'all. Cause I didn't forgot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here. Okay. I'm gonna go on over here. And I'm gonna pull up hold on, y'all. Unless y'all can tell me. Anybody can tell me? Last time we read our R.L. Stine was 3 weeks ago. Has it been that long, y'all? Has it been 3 weeks ago? Y'all let me know. Y'all let me know. No, that was chapter 6. That's not the right one. So it had to be another time. It had to be another time. Okay, right here. 11 through 16 we did last time. Okay? 11 through 16. So we starting off at chapter 16, y'all. Chapter 16. My little poor little thing is falling apart, y'all. I'm gonna have to fix that. Let me see. Let me go to chapter 16, y'all. Let me see. I'm sorry I waited so long to finish this up. Well, I don't think we're gonna finish it up because we still got a nice little a nice little book here, and we usually do five chapters a piece every time I could do it. So we do our 5 chapters today. We're gonna do our 5 chapters today, starting at chapter 16. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me find it. How y'all doing today? Is y'all staying warm like I'm trying to stay warm? I hope y'all is. Okay. Okay, so now I gotta figure out, y'all, hold on. I gotta figure out, do I start at chapter 16 or, let me see. All right, so we going into chapter 16, okay? So we starting at chapter 16. So let's get started. And y'all always know I start from the last thing we read, and then I go into chapter 16. So I know what's in the package, Jade. I just know it's for sure. Well, come on, don't keep me in suspense. It's his mask, Dina said, his eyes straight ahead, her eyes straight ahead on Ferguson's car. It's the mask and the bloody shirt he wore. Y'all, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. The shirt he wore the night he unalived his wife. Y'all. Okay. So here we go. Look out for that bus. Dina swerved to the right just in time. The angry bus driver leaned on his horn. Sorry, Dina apologized to Jade. I was so busy watching Ferguson's car, I didn't realize I was over the line. We're almost into his restaurant, Jade said. I know. I'm right about the package, Dina said. Stop for the light. He had to hide the mask and the shirt somewhere, right? Right, Jade agreed. Miss Morrison was the perfect person to keep it for him. Yeah, maybe, Jade said. I did hear her say over the phone that she couldn't bear to have it in her house any longer. She begged him to take it. Maybe you're right, Dina. Maybe the mask is in that package. If I am right, well, we'll have the proof we need, Dina said, smiling for the first time in a long while. It'll prove to the police that we were telling the truth, and it'll free Chuck. So, anybody just getting here and just getting started, let me do a recap, okay? Y'all just heard that part. So let me do a recap. So it started off with these 2 teenage girls, okay? And they were, best friends. And they were, hanging out, doing their hair and things like that, and at one of the girls' house. And one of the girls' brother was supposed to come in town because he was going to be living with them, y'all. Because wherever he was at with his mom, he wasn't doing too well. He wasn't doing good in school. He got expelled, things like that. So he went to live with his dad, which is his and also his half sister. Okay, so y'all, they started doing prank calls to people and things like that. Her brother Chuck finally got there. He got involved with the prank calls and things like that. And then it turned into, just, innocent pranks. And then till their brother Chuck got into it, and he started doing calls that he shouldn't have been making, just to say the least. Okay, so then it went into him making a call to show his sister and her friend that this place called Fear Street was just filled with real people, and it was nothing to be afraid of. So he made a call to Fear Street, only to get someone on the line that needed help. He heard a woman on the other end asking for help, pleading for help, and things like that. He called, and then the phone hung up. And then he called again, and a man answered the phone. And then he hung up. So they wind up, him wanting to help. They wind up getting in the car, going over to Fear Street, to this address where this woman was pleading for help, okay? To say the least. So when they get there, they find I'll say, to say the least, a crime scene. And the man that was on the phone wind up coming and trying to attack them, which leads to a high-speed chase in the car. And they went home. They everything was okay. So the police got involved. So the brother is now locked up, and the sisters are trying to get some evidence that he is innocent from this man that was chasing them, which was the person that was unalive, husband, hello, and so they trying to get the brother out of being in trouble, y'all. So we gonna go into it for now to see what else gonna happen, y'all. That's just a short recap, okay? Just a short recap. Okay. So let's finish here. It'll prove to the police that we were telling the truth, and it'll free Chuck. Slow down, but I'm so excited about. No, I mean slow down, Jay said. There's Ferguson's restaurant. He's parking right in front. Dina slammed the brakes. Luckily, there was no one behind her. She saw a parking spot across the street, letting a van go by. She made a wide U-turn and pulled into it. Then both girls got out of the car and ducked low behind a bus shutter. They watched Ferguson climb out of his car and lock it. He had the brown package under his arm. He walked to a row of garbage cans, on the curb. Great, Jade whispered. If he drops it in one of those cans, we can easily pull it out after he goes inside. But once again, Ferguson changed his mind. Transferring the package to his right hand, he turned away from the curb and headed into a narrow alley that ran beside the restaurant. Come on, we've got to follow him, Jay said, looking both ways and then bounding across the street. But he'll see us, Dina cried, following her. Just keep against the wall, Jade warned. They inched along the wall, following Ferguson to the back of the restaurant. Stopping at the corner of the building, they watched him enter a small cement courtyard walled in by buildings on the four sides. A tall yellow garbage dumpster stood in the center of the courtyard. Ferguson scanned the area as if not wanting to be seen. Jade and Dina pressed themselves against the dirty bricks walls and held their breath. Ferguson tossed the package into the dumpster, then quickly disappeared into a door at the back of the restaurant. Let's go get it, Dina whispered. She was nearly trembling with excitement. Her heart was racing so fast she could barely breathe. Shh, wait another minute, Jay said, holding her friend back. Make sure he's gone inside for good. The minutes seemed endless to both girls. Then they were sure the courtyard was deserted. They nodded into nodded to each other and made a run toward the dumpster. They were half across the courtyard when a man's voice called to them angrily. Hey, what are you doing? Dina froze. It felt as if her heart had suddenly stopped. She turned around. What are you girls doing back there? The door to the restaurant's kitchen was open. Two men wearing white aprons were at a long counter chopping vegetables. One of them, the one who had called to them, stepped to the doorway. We thought the entrance was back here, Jay said, thinking quickly as usual. The man the man chewed on a toothpick and eyed them both suspiciously. We're closed, he said. We're not open for lunch. He spit out the toothpick. Oh, okay. See you later, Jay said. She followed Dina, who was already hurrying us away. They ran back along the narrow alleyway. Neither of them said a word until they were safe back in the car and heading towards Dina's house. Close call, Jade muttered finally, still looking shaken. That cook didn't look like a nice guy. What are we going to do? Dina wailed. We've got to get that package. We were so close. If only we'll go back, Jay said. But the kitchen door is open. That guy will never let us get to that dumpster. No, not right now, Jay said, thinking hard. We'll go back tonight. The cook will be so busy they won't have time to notice two girls pawing through their garbage. They drove for a while in silence. What do you think? Jay asked finally. Is this a good plan? Dina's featured hardened. We have no choice, she said quickly. Park as close as you can to the alley, Jade instructed, just in case we have to make a run for it. Dina felt a wave of fear run down her body. Do you think we'll have to run? Jade slugged. Just being realistic. Don't look so scared. No one's going to do anything dreadful to us for going through a garbage dumpster. What if Ferguson sees us? She swerved to avoid a girl on a bicycle crossing the street. Against the light, wish these headlights were brighter. It's so dark tonight. There's no moon, Jay said, looking up at the sky through the car window. It's nearly 9 o'clock, Dina. I'm sure Ferguson is really busy. I hope you're right, Dina said, unable to shake off her feeling of dread. The restaurant came into view. It's crowded tonight, Dina said, slowing down, searching for a parking place. The place on the side of the streets are all taken. Oh well, Jay said, disappointed. Park in the empty lot across the street. Maybe we'll get lucky and won't have to run for our lives. Very funny, Dina said, pulling into a lot and parking the car as near to the street as possible. How come you're in such a breezy mood? I'm not, Jay said seriously. I'm just excited because I think you're right about that package. And if you're right, we do get the mask tonight. We'll be able to get Chuck out of jail and the real murderer in. I don't know if I can say that either, but I said it, y'all. Dina held up her hand with both sets of fingers crossed. Let's go. A few seconds later, they were making their way through the narrow alley. It seems much narrower and longer in the dark and much creepier. Why didn't we bring flashlights? Dina asked, walking against the wall right behind Jade. Flashlights would be noticed, Jade whispered. Don't worry, there'll be enough light from the surrounding buildings once we get to the courtyard. They came to the back of the building. The courtyard was illuminated by a single light bulb above the kitchen door, which both girls were thankful to see was closed. That's a break, Dina whispered. Just pray that no one opens it while we're back here, Jade said. And then she gasped and nearly fell backwards into Dina. Jade, what's wrong? Dina cried, startled. Something scraped over her foot. Dina looked down. A large gray rat scurried past them and disappeared in the dark alley. Oh, that was the worst feeling, Jade said, breathing hard. There must be more of them, Dina said, her voice trembling. They probably come back here. They probably come back here for the garbage. Oh, another rat leaped off the top of the dumpster. It's made a screeching noise as it hit the pavement, then scurried off in the direction of his companion. Come on, Dina. Let's see if the rats have left us anything. As they approached the tall dumpster, Dina gazed up at the buildings surrounding the courtyard. There were lights on several windows. She hoped no one would accidentally see them down there. Come on, Jade urged. It's too tall to see the bottom. We've got to climb in. What? Climb in? Dina took a deep breath. The street, the street The stench of rotting food filled their nostrils. Ugh. You'll get used to it, Jade said, holding her nose. I think. Come on, give me a boost. I'll get in and pull you up. It's disgusting, Dina complained, starting to feel sick. I I really can't stand the smell. Dina forgot about the smell. Snap out of it. Let's grab the package and get out of here. Give me a boost, Jay said. Dina struggled to push her up to the top of the dumpster. Jay grabbed hold of the rim, pulled herself in, and then dropped into the bottom. If you think it smells bad out there, wait until you get in here, Jay called. Do you see the package? Dina asked hopefully. All I can see is rotten cabbage, Jay said. They must have made a lot of coleslaw today. She leaned over the side and offered her arm to Dina. Come on, I'll help you in. We're both going to have to search. Are there, are there rats in there with you? Dina asked, taking Jade's hand. Only a few, Jade answered dryly. She tugged, and a few seconds later, Dina was beside her, also knee-deep in garbage. Come on, start searching. They began pawing through the wet, rotten garbage. This is so disgusting, Dina complained. I'm going to have to take 6 baths when I get home. We'll have to bury our clothes, Jade said. Now, where is the package? That package. It must be down near the bottom. Oh, this fish part smelled worse. Suddenly they heard a noise. They stopped their search and ducked down low. The kitchen door had opened. Dina held her breath. Someone was approaching the dumpster. No, please go away, she begged silently. Suddenly, 2 big black plastic garbage bags came flying on top of the 2 girls. Jade toppled over into the garbage. Dina managed to remain upright. Neither of them made a sound. The footsteps retreated. The kitchen door closed. Jade, where are you? Dina whispered, shoveling one of the garbage bags aside. Where do you think? Jade's voice was muffled. Oh, Lord, I'm covered in garbage. Why don't these people use garbage bags for all their garbage? She started to pull herself to her feet, then stopped. What's the matter? Dina asked. Some of the garbage at the other end of the dumpster was moving. She realized there must be a angry rat down at the end. She felt something, Jade said, reaching down to the bottom. Then she smiled and held up the brown package. Got it. Quick, open it up. Dina cried excitedly. Is it the mask? No, not here, Jay said. Let's get back to the car. Dina quickly agreed. She jumped down from the dumpster. Then Jade jumped down. They looked at the restaurant kitchen, but the door remained closed, with the odor of garbage still in their nostrils. They ran at full speed down the dark alleyway. As they reached the sidewalk, they nearly collided with an old couple leaving the restaurant. Which watch where you're going, the man cried. But they didn't stop running until they reached the parking lot. Then they both leaned against the car and waited to catch their breath. Open it. Come on, Dina demanded. Did we did it, Jade. We got our proof. I knew we could get Chuck out of trouble. The package was tied very tightly. Jade struggled to remove the string. It feels so heavy to be a man, she said. That's because his shirt must be in there too, Dina said, watching Jade's efforts impatiently. Finally, Jade pulled off the string and tore open the paper. Both girls screamed when they saw what was in the bag. Y'all. Hi, Fugal Mama. I'm sorry, y'all. Hi, Vondi. Thank y'all for coming in. Y'all. Okay. So that was chapter 16. Okay, that was chapter 16, y'all. Let's get to 17. That sound. Let's see what was in this package, y'all. Let's see what was in this package. Y'all. Y'all still with me? Hey, Von D, thanks for coming. Y'all, I was into that story. I didn't even look over to see if y'all was saying nothing. But thank y'all I appreciate y'all for coming. All right, chapter 17, y'all. The dead cat seemed to stare up at them. Its eyes had already sunk deep into his head. It smelled worse than the dumpster. Jade dropped the cat, still wrapped in brown paper, on the ground. I don't believe it, Dina wailed. A dead cat? Ferguson was throwing away a dead cat? Miss Morrison said she was having a bad morning, Jade recalled. I guess her cat passed away. I guess she couldn't bear and deal with it. So she asked Ferguson to do it. I don't believe it, Dina said again, shaking her head. It was taking a lot of effort not to burst into tears. I'm so disappointed, Jade. Me too. Jade leaned against the truck of the car and closed her eyes. I really you would thought you were right, Dina. I thought we had the mask. I thought, oh, what's the point? She asked bitterly. She glanced down at the unalive cat at her feet and made a face. Now what? Dina asked grimly. What do we have? What do we have all our clever detective work? Well, we know that Ferguson plans to leave the country on Saturday. We know that he and Miss Morrison. Nothing, Dina interrupted bitterly. We've got nothing. No proof of any kind. No proof that he was the man in the mask. No proof that he unalived his wife. Nothing. Well, maybe he didn't do it, Jade said thoughtfully. Huh? Dina looked at Jade in shock. Maybe we jumped to the wrong conclusion because Ferguson's voice is similar to the man in the mask, but face it, Dina, we don't have any evidence at all. Just as you said. No, it was him that night. It was Ferguson, Dina insisted. I have no doubt about that. Jade looked at her. No doubt at all? Dina didn't reply. She sighed wearily. Come on, let's go home. They climbed into the car. Dina searched in the dark for the keys. Why don't they put some lights in this parking lot? It's as dark as that alley. Jade shrugged. Don't remind me of the alley. Dina finally found the keys and struggled to get it into the slot. Come on, let's get out of here, Jade said urgent, urgently. I'm trying, Dina whined. She started the engine and put the car into reverse. She turned to look out the rear window as she started to back up, and a powerful hand reached out from the back seat and grabbed her shoulder. No, she screamed, and she slammed on the brakes. Jade turned her eyes wide with horror and saw the man in the mask just as he grabbed her shoulder with his other hand. Ouch, you're hurting me. She squeezed her he squeezed their shoulders hard and pulled his masked face up close to them. Don't ever let me see you again, he said in a low, menacing growl. I, on, I only give one warning. His breath was hot and smelled of garlic. He shoved them both hard from behind, then launched from the car, leaving the back door open and disappearing into the darkness. Y'all, he was in the car the whole time. Oh my goodness. Y'all, that was chapter 17. He was in the car all the time, y'all. So when they went to go get that stuff out of the garbage, he must have went in and got in the car and waited on them to get back. So, y'all, and this time he had on the mask. Let's see. Let's see what happened. We on chapter 18, y'all. The next day was barely able to sit through her classes. Dina was barely able to sit through her classes. All morning long, she kept hearing the masked man's voice repeating his warning in her ear. Her shoulders were still sore from where he had grabbed her. Why didn't he unalive us? She wondered. Why should he? Questioned. She answered her own question. He'll be long gone on Saturday, and Chuck will be here to pay for his crime. Just before lunch, she went to her locker. Struggling to open it, she dropped her armload of books. When she leaned down to pick them up, her purse fell. Its content poured out onto the floor. Need some help? Asked a familiar voice. Dina stared up at Rob Morrell, who was smiling in a friendly way. She was too tired and frustrated to do more than stemmer back, y'all. Thanks. But Rob didn't seem to mind. He bent down and helped her stow her gear away, then asked her to have a Coke with him after school. Dina felt like busting into tears. Thanks, Rob, but I have some things I have to do, she said. Rob looked disappointed, then shrugged. Well, maybe another time, he said, and he walked off down the hall. Dina watched him go, feeling terrible. But how could she tell him what she had to do? How could she tell him that she had to go visit her brother in where he was, y'all, locked up. I ain't gonna say it. Her poor brother, who was going to stand trial for a, I'm gonna say, unalive, he didn't commit. I don't know what I can say on here, y'all. That's why I'm trying to yeah. As she walked down the building, Dina felt guilty. She should have gone to see Chuck long ago, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. She didn't want to see him there in that awful place. She didn't know what she'd say to him, but he had been asking about her. She really had no choice. She had to take her nerves and face him. She had to tell him how the police wouldn't believe a word she said and how miserable she had failed at being a detective. The heavy metal doors shut behind her with a clang that made Dina jump, her heart pounding furiously. She followed the guard down a long, dark hall. The tiles on the floor was discolored and scraped and scarred from the thousands of feet that had walked this same hall on the way to being locked up. The halls passed through two more metal doors, then opened into a large, neatly empty, fluorescent lit room. Y'all, please sit here, the guard said. They'll bring your brother out in a minute. She gave she gave Dina a big friendly smile. Dina just stared at her. How could anyone be cheerful in a place like this? The guard left Dina alone in the room. It was narrow and windowless, divided down the center with a long, former covered counter. From the counter to the ceiling, a wired screening extended to keep the visitors and the prisoners from touching each other. At the furthest end of the room, a young woman sat hunched over the counter, sobbing into a handkerchief. Dina couldn't see whom she was talking with, but could hear the low, monotonous drone of a man. Mon, monstra, mon, monstrous. Y'all, I can't say that word. Monstrous, monstrous drone of a man's voice from the other side of the screen. Her knees quaking, Dina took a seat on a a bent up wooden chair on the visitor side of the counter. She'd never been in such a dismal place, dismal place, and wasn't sure she wanted to be there now. What would Chuck be like? She wondered. Would he look would would he look different? Would he act different? Tougher maybe? She felt so nervous. She wished she could just run away. After endless minutes, an armed guard led Chuck into the other section of the room on the other side of the screen. He was wearing a light blue cotton shirt and a dungeons dungarees. What is that, yo? Dungarees. A light cotton shirt and dungarees. What is dungarees? Okay. And Dina thought he looked pale and thin. He didn't see her at first, but when he did, he burst away. He burst away from the guard and came running toward her. Dina stood up to greet him. Stop right there, the guard screamed. You know the rules. Chuck immediately stopped a few inches from the screen and slumped into the folding chair provided for the prisoners. No more fast moving, you hear? The guard warned, crossing his arms over his chest and staring at them both. Chuck, hi, Dina said uncomfortably. She forced herself to look into his eyes. They were red, rimmed, and watery. You got to get me out of here, he said in a loud whisper. Huh? She wasn't sure she'd heard correctly. I can't take it here, Dina. I can't. I really can't. I'm going out of my mind. He closed his eyes and pressed his forehead against the screen. Back up, the guard called, uncrossing his arms and taking a step toward Chuck. Sorry, Chuck called back to him loudly, and he sat up straight. Next warning, and you'll go back to your cell, the guard said. It's terrible in here, Chuck said, keeping his voice low. It's just humiliating, 100 humiliations a day. Most of the men in here are criminals, real criminals, robbers and dealers, and y'all know what that is. And there's one guy who brags about how he unalived a whole family of campers in the state park. Dina stared at him, trying to keep the tears out of her eyes. That's so awful, she managed to say. I've got to get out. I've got to. I can't believe this has happened to me. It just isn't fair. Dad said the lawyer will get you out soon. He just has to get the charge changed to man otter. I don't know if I can say that, y'all. Man otter, Dina said, but it sounds pretty lame even to her. So he's trying to get his charge from unaliving somebody to man otter. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Hey, James. Thanks for coming in. So, it won't be soon enough, Chuck cried. I've got to get out now. Jade and I are trying to help, Dina told him. For the first time, Chuck's face brightened. How is Jade? She's worried about you. That makes two of us, he said grimly. Jade and I have found out some things, Dina whispered. 2 more minutes, the guard interrupted, looking at the large round clock at the far wall. Dina quickly told Chuck about Ferguson, about the planned reservations, and about their trip to Miss Morrison's house. Oh, Chuck said, you two really took a chance. I can't believe you did that for me. Well, you're my brother, Dina said. Besides, Jade and I are involved too. Yeah, but you're not behind bars, he said, turning bitter again. Man, if only I were out of here. I go right to Fear Street, right to Ferguson's house, and I searched the place till I found the evidence. I need to prove that he's guilty. Okay, Dina said. What? What do you mean, okay? He looked confused. Jade and I will go to the house. No, wait, I didn't mean for you to do it. I said I would do it if I was out. Well, we're out, and we're not so well. No way, Chuck screamed. No way. It's too dangerous. The man is a unaliver. No way. I won't let you go. Go there. He jumped to his feet and pressed his hand against the screen. Hey, the guard yelled. We're going and you can't stop us, Dina declared. We only have till tomorrow night to prove he's guilty. He's guilty. No way. I won't let you do it. Chuck screamed. No way. I warned you, the guard said, moving quickly. He grabbed Chuck with both hands and pulled him away from the screen. "Let me go." Chuck snapped angrily at the guard and struggled out of his grip. "I don't want you to go to Fear Street," he shouted to Dina. The guard grabbed him from behind and started to put a chokehold on him. "Do you have to get rough, kid? Do you have to get rough, kid? Get off me," Chuck raged. Dina couldn't bear it any longer. She stood up and turned away. The other guard appeared suddenly and led her out of the room. As the door closed, she could hear Chuck scraping with the guard. "Dina, Dina, did you hear me?" he screamed after her. Y'all, so it's getting hectic, y'all. Now the sister and the friend, let me go a little back. The sister and the friend, they already been trying to investigate, y'all, trying to get their brother out because he there and he's not supposed to be there. The man, as we go back, the man that they found in the house with the unalive woman had on a mask, right? Okay, he chased them. When they got to the house, he kept going. So he's the one that told the police that they are the one that broke into his house. Okay, the husband told the police that they was the one broke into the house. That made the police take the brother, which is Dina's brother, to the lockup. Okay, so he's been in there ever since. But Dina and Jay, they've been trying to do some investigating to get him out. They thought they had something when they found that package and they jumped in the garbage, but it wasn't any evidence. But only evidence that they do have is that this guy, this husband, which his name is Ferguson, and this woman, Mrs. Morris, that used to work at the restaurant, she quit right after the unaliving of Mr. Ferguson, his wife. Supposed to be going on a trip together, y'all. They supposed to be going off on a trip together. So obviously he running away from what's going on or whatever, what have you. But now Dina is talking about going to this house where they found the woman unalive, y'all. And her brother is telling her, "Don't go, it's too dangerous." So let's see what happened. Let's see what's going to happen now. Let's get into it. Chapter 19. Let's go. By the time she got home from the place, I don't know if I can say that, Dina felt awful. Her head ached. She felt sick to her stomach. "Maybe I'm getting the flu," she thought. "Maybe I'll just go to bed and hide under the covers and all this go away." But she knew it wouldn't. The only way to make it go away was to go to Fear Street and prove that Ferguson was the unaliver. At dinner, she didn't feel like eating, and as usual, her mother noticed. "What's the matter, honey?" she said. "Don't you feel well?" "I'm all right," said Dina. To prove it, she took a big bite of mashed potatoes. Usually they were her favorite, but that night they taste like sawdust. "I know what it is," said her mother. "You're worried about Chuck, aren't you?" Dina nodded. She didn't trust herself to say anything more. "We're all worried, Dina," said her father. "But remember that Chuck brought a lot of this on himself. If you kids hadn't made those fool phone calls, he didn't unalive anyone," Dina shouted, surprising herself with her outburst. "He didn't murder any. I still said it. He didn't unalive anyone," Dina shouted, surprising herself with her outburst. He's not a criminal, but the police have him locked up like one. And now you're saying he deserves it? Now just admit it, young lady," her father said. I didn't say any such thing. I only meant. Dina didn't wait for him to finish. She she pushed herself away from the table, ran upstairs to her room, and threw herself on her bed sobbing. A few moments later, her mother tapped on her door. Maybe, may I come in? She asked. Help yourself, Dina muttered. Her mother sat on the edge of the bed and began to rub her back. You must be angry with your father, she said. Don't you know how hard it is on him? After all, Chuck is his only son. I'm sorry, Mom. I just don't want to talk about it. I'm tired and I just want to be left alone. Her mom patted her and stood up with a worried look. All right, honey, she said. If you want to talk later, I'll be downstairs. After a while, Dita stopped crying and splashed water on her face. Then she sat down and tried to work on her trig homework, but she couldn't concentrate. It was no use. No matter what she tried to think about, her thoughts kept coming back to one thing. She had to go to Fear Street. The phone rang. She jumped, her heart suddenly beating fast. What if it's him? But it was Jade. How was Chuck? She asked right away. Angry and bitter, said Dina. But who can blame him? He said to tell you hi. How did he look? Like a prisoner, Dina said irritably. What do you expect? What do you expect? You don't need to bite my head off, Jade said. Sorry, said Dina. I guess all of this is getting to me. Me too, Jade said. What are we going to do next? I guess we're going to have to pay a return visit to Fear Street, Dina said. Jade didn't say a word in reply. Dina was so tired she managed to sleep well that night. She woke up feeling refreshed and energetic until she remembered what day it was and what she and Jade were going to do that night. But maybe it wouldn't be so bad, she told herself. For one thing, Ferguson would probably be working. They'd have all the time they needed to find something linking him to the unaliving. At lunch, Jade was actually cheery, ready for another adventure, she said, sitting down her tray. It was hard to think of it as an adventure, but Jade's good mood relaxed Dina, and she felt even more cheerful when Morrell waved at her from across the cafeteria, then gave her a wink. By the end of the day, she felt nervous but confident. The only thing bothering her, in fact, was that it was beginning to cloud up outside. But what was a little rain? By the time Dita got home from school, it was pouring. The house was as dark as night. Dina's mother worked late on Friday, and her father wasn't home yet. Dina put down her books and was heating up some soup in the kitchen when the phone rang. Hello, Dina. It was her father. Hi, Daddy, she said, trying to sound cheerful. Some weather, huh? He said. Listen, we've had some trouble down here at the phone company. Lighting struck a transformer and the phones are out on the south side of town. Everyone's staying late till we get it straightened out. Tell your mother not to wait up for me. Okay, Daddy, she said. Try to stay dry. She quickly ate a bowl of soup, then changed into sweatpants, a warm jacket, and her rain poncho. Just before leaving, she woke she wrote her mother, a note saying that she had gone over to Jade's house to study. Then she walked down to the Division Street Mall, where she and Jade had arranged to meet. What a night to be out without wheels, she thought. By the time she got there, she was drenched. Jade was waiting in front of the pizza restaurant wearing a bright yellow raincoat and somehow managing to look fashionable and dry at the same time. I feel like I feel like a drowned duck, Dina complained. You look like one too, Jade agreed. Ready, I guess? So, Dina said. But let's call first and make sure Ferguson's not home. Jade dropped a coin into a payphone and then then hung up, a frown on her face. That's funny, she said. I didn't get anything. Not a ring, not a busy signal, just dread, just air. Hi, James. Hi, Monday. Hey, Fig. Uh, Sugar Mama. Oh, okay. I was going to say, who is Figs? A frown on her face. That's funny, she said. I didn't even, I didn't get anything. Not a ring, a business signal, or air, just air. I forgot, Dina told her. My dad called. The phones are out on the south side of town. Oh no, said Jade. What do we do? Well, we'll just have to go over there, said Dina. What choice do we have? If we see a light on, we'll think of another plan. Jade nodded. I'm sure he'll be at the restaurant, she said. He wouldn't want to do anything unusual, not the night before he's leaving, right? Right, said Dina, hoping it was true. The girls left the mall, then caught the Waynesbridge bus, which crossed Division Street, then went south on Mill Road. The bus was warm and comfortable, and Dina tried not to think of where it was taking them. Too soon, Jade nudged her. It's the next stop, she said. Reluctantly, Dina pulled the stop signal, and the bus pulled into a small roadside clearing. It looked deserted there, with thickened, overgrown bushes and trees growing right up to the edge of the road. Water dripped everywhere, and though it was still early, the storm clouds were so thick it was as dark as midnight. Overhead, the sky flashed with lightning, and the booming sound of thunder shook the ground. A stream splashed angrily across a ditch beside the mill road. Nice neighborhood, Jade crackled. Very funny, said Dana. She squinched through the gloom, then saw a street sign a few feet down the road. This way, she said, and the girls sludged along and the muddy shoulder of the crossroad. One arm of the sign said in rustic letters, the Mill Road. At an angle, the other arm read Fierce Street. The girls exchanged looks. Dina hoped she didn't look as scared as Jade did. Hey, it's just a street, right? Said Jade, trying to smile. Right, Dina said. Y'all, they didn't went to the house. They finna go to the house. They finna go to the house. Let's see what happened. Chapter 20. Feeling wet and miserable, the girls began to tread across east on Fear Street toward the Ferguson's house. As she walked, Dina tried to pretend she was on any other street in town. In all the rain, however, she had to admit Fear Street didn't look gloomier than any other street. After they walked a little more than a block, the rain inter- in- intensified, and with it, the howling wind. Overhead, lightning continued to flash. What was that? Jay suddenly shrieked, grabbing Dina's arm. Dina turned and saw something. Something dark and sleek disappeared into a yard across the street. Probably just a dog, she said. Anyway, it's gone. They continued walking, their feet squishing in the mud and water that cascaded across the broken pavement. Shouldn't we be there by now? Jade asked. There's the house, Dina said, pointing. The Ferguson house was completely dark. The two girls made their way up to the porch and looked into the living room window. Too dark to see anything. He must be at the restaurant, Jade said. Thank goodness. Dina went to the front door. There was bright yellow tape across the door that said crime scene. She tried the handle, but the door was locked. We'll have to break the window and go in, Jade said. No, not in front. Someone might see us. Come on, let's go around the back. They hurried across to the back, slipping on the wet mud at the side of the house. The rain had slowed a little, but lightning continued to flare as they stepped into the backyard, into the back door. The glass in the kitchen door had not been replaced. The empty pane had been covered with a piece of cardboard, so soggy it nearly disin, disin, disentangled when Dina pulled it off. She put her ear to the empty pane. There was no sound inside. Hello, she called, ready to run if there was an answer. The only reply was the whistling wind and the tapping of dripping water. Carefully, she reached her arm through the space and found the doorknob, then flipped the lock. Okay, she said, slowing, slowing, pushing the door, slowly pushing the door in. Let's go. The girls exchanged frightened looks, then stepped into the dark, empty house. Y'all, y'all. The first thing Dina noticed was that Mr. Ferguson hadn't bothered to clean up since last Saturday night. The kitchen table was standing right side up, but the counter and floors were still covered with spilled spices and flour. Her flashlight beam showed mouse tracks in the powdery debris. Yuck, she said. This is disgusting. If you think the kitchen's disgusting, you ought to see the living room, called Jade. Dina followed her friend's voice to the scene of the Saturday night horror. Dark stains still showed on the carpet, and a bright yellow chalk line left by the police showed where Miss Ferguson had laid. I'm going to say that. The floor was still littered with broken lamps and ashtrays, and Mr. Ferguson hadn't even bothered to pick up the cushions scattered around the room. What a mess, said Dina. I don't even know where to start. Do you see anything that looks like a desk? Jade asked. Maybe we'll find some papers, insurance, a diary, something. The girls swung their flashlights across the room, but there was no sign of a desk or even a writing table. Look at this, Jay said, pointing with the beam of her flashlight. To one side of the couch laid a basket full of magazines. Hold the flashlight while I look through this, she said. Jade knelt and rapidly flipped through half a dozen periodical periodicals, periodicals. What is periodicals, y'all? Decals. Periodicals. Okay. There were several issues of weight loss magazines and something called Your Modern Home with mailing labels addressed to Mr. Edna Ferguson. Miss Edna Ferguson. Well, that was helpful, Jay said, brushing dust off of her hands. Dina went to the telephone stand, which contained only the phone and the phone book. She pulled on a drawer, but it was stuck. In frustration, she pounded on it and pulled again with all of her strength. The drawer suddenly came loose, sending the telephone scattering to the floor. Jay let out a little shriek. Will you be careful? She said. I think I found something, Dina said, suddenly, excited as a small white notepad fell out of the drawer. She picked it up and explained ex, examined it under the flashlight. False alarm, she said. It's completely dark. It's completely blank. Wonderful, said Jay. Come on, let's try it upstairs. As they began to walk up the old crinkly stairs, Dina heard a noise that caused the chill to return to her spine. Do you hear that? She whispered. Now Jade to she whispered. Now Jade to stop the crinkly sound. That crinkly sound. It sounds like someone is in a rocking chair, Dina said. Do you suppose? But who could it be? Said Jade. Mr. Ferguson's at work, and Miss Ferguson's unalive. What am I doing here? Dina thought. It's probably nothing, she said, trying to convince herself. By now they had reached the top of the stairs. It's coming from behind that door, she said, holding her breath. Dina forced herself to tiptoe toward the room. She reached out and pushed the door open. It was a bedroom with a big floor poster bed and two large burrows against the far wall, a casement. Hmm? The far wall, a casement. Y'all, some of these, some of this stuff, I'll be like, what? Window hung open. A casement window hung open. A casement window. Is that like one of them windows that just open up like that? A casement window. With every gut of wind, it swung back and forth, making the weird crinkling sound. This house is too spooky, Jade observed from the doorway. This is one spook I'm going to put an end to, said Dina. She crossed to the window, nearly slipping in a puddle of rainwater that had blown into the room. The good news is that it stopped raining, she said. She told Jade. What's the bad news? Jade said. I can't get the window shut, said Dina. It's stuck against a branch. There's a huge tree right outside. Let me help, said Jade. She came over and pushed against the overgrown branch of a big maple tree while Dina pulled the window shut. Good work, said Dina. That sound was making me crazy. She swung the flashlight around the room. Think we'll find anything here? She said. There's nothing in the closet, Jade muttered. Voice reported. Just a bunch of women's clothes. It all smells like mothballs. The next room was smaller than the first, and as soon as they opened the door, Dina knew they'd hit jackpot. This has to be his study, she said with glowing excitement. Great, Jade said, her voice beginning to show some of her old excitement. In front of the window stood an old metal desk, its top covered with paper. A two-drawer file cabinet was set in the corner, its drawers standing open and empty. Well across from the desk was a daybed, also heaped high with papers. Several boxes and green plastic trash bags sat in the disarray, stuffed with paper and files. Looks as if Mr. Ferguson's clearing out his files, said Jade, sounding satisfied. But it could take weeks to go through this stuff, said Dina, and we don't even know what we're looking for. We probably don't have to go through it all, said Jade. Just skim through the things on top. That's probably the stuff that he'll be looking at most recently. You'll take the couch and I'll look at the things on the desk. Dina sat on the couch and began to look through the stacks of file papers there. She flipped through several file folders, most containing receipts for the house, whole bills, old income tax forms, and check stubs. She was about to move on where her eyes fell on a piece of paper folded and unfolded too many times. It was fragile enough to fall apart at the touch. I think I found something, she told Jade. That makes one of us, said Jade. What is it? A letter, said Dina, from Mr. Ferguson to Miss from Mrs. Ferguson to Mr. Ferguson. Listen to this. Dear Stan, Dina read, there's no use arguing anymore. I have made up my mind to leave you, and nothing will change that. I know you can't make a go at make a go of the restaurant. When I gave you the money to buy it, I believed that finally you would be satisfied with at something. But once again, you are failing. I refuse to give you any more money. In the last 5 years, you have gone through almost all of my inheritance. I have to save something for myself. I'll be by Saturday night to pick up my things. Goodbye, Edna. Goodbye, Edna. That's it, said Jade. That's why he unalived her. She had money, and she was leaving him. It's it's sort of sad though, Dina said. It sounds as if she once really cared about him, which was obviously a big mistake, said Jade. Anyway, we've got what we came for. Let's let's get out of here. Okay, said Dina. Just give me a minute. I want to check the closet. For what? We have enough evidence to go to the police. I want to try to find the mask, Dina said. Okay, said Jade, but hurry. Dina opened the closet and shone the flashlight in there a suitcase here. She said, forget it, said Jade earnestly. I hear a car coming. Probably just someone driving by, said Dina. She opened the suitcase to find a piles of shirts, socks, and trousers. Slipping her hand down beneath the clothes, she felt around, but there was nothing else. Disappointed, she snapped the suitcase shut and began to inspect the content on the shelves. The car sound close, said Jade, sounding nervous. Come on, forget the mask. All right, said Dina. She backed out of the closet and slipped the letter from Miss Ferguson into the wristband of her sweats, and froze. Now she could hear the car too. Here, Here it slowed down, then turned into the Ferguson's driveway. It can't be him, Dina whispered. It's too early.
The car door opened and slammed shut. Heavy footsteps began to walk toward the house. Then there was the sound of a key turning in the lock, and the front door began to creak open. Oh my goodness, y'all. And they is in the house. He didn't came home. He didn't came home. They didn't found a letter from the wife. That's that sound like uh some the I guess the reason he did what he did to her, y'all. I guess that's why he did what he did to her. She was leaving him. She was done with all that. She was done, y'all. Let's see. Let's see what happened. Both girls stood very still, scarcely breathing, scarcely breathing. They could hear something walking around, and they saw a sudden glow from a light that had been switched on downstairs. We've got to do something, Jade whispered at last. Like what? Said Dina. All we can do is wait. Maybe he just came home to pick something up. She she's she nervously fingered the letter in her wristband. It was the proof they needed, the proof that would save Chuck. Somehow they had to get it to the police, but would they be able to leave? From downstairs they could now hear Mr. Ferguson walking toward the kitchen. What if he's home for good? Said Jade, echoing Dana's own fears. Maybe the restaurant closed early, or maybe he got sick. Then we'll have to wait till he until he's asleep, said Dina said. There's no reason for him to know we're here. Let's put our rain gear back on in case we have to hide. As quickly as possible, Jade tiptoed to the desk and took her raincoat and Dina's poncho from the back of the desk chair where they'd left them. On the way back, her foot creaked on a loose board, and both girls held their breath for a moment, but there was no response from downstairs. My mom's going to unalive me, whispered Jade, struggling, stru- struggling into her yellow slicker. I told her I'd be home by 10. Jade, your mom isn't our major problem right now, Dina whispered. The girls carefully sat down on the edge of the daybed and waited and waited. Each minute seemed to take an hour. The poncho was hot, and even though the room was chilly, Dina felt a drop of perspiration roll down her back. If only there was some other way to get out of this house. What was Mr. Ferguson doing now? She wondered. There hadn't been a sound from him for a long time. I can't stand it, whispered Jade suddenly. I'm going to see if I can get a peek. Maybe it isn't even Mr. Ferguson down there. Before Dina could protest, Jade slipped out into the hall. A few moments later, she came back, her face looking very worried in the dim light. He's on the couch with his head back, she reported. He's snoring. Dana took a deep breath. Maybe we ought to try to sneak past him, she said. What do you think? Y'all, what y'all think? Jade nodded. Both girls took big gulps of air, then began to tiptoe down the hall toward the stairway. The wooden floor was very old, and each step caused a cracking that sounded as loud as an ambulance siren to Dina. They reached the head of the stairs. From down below, Dina could hear the muted sound of Mr. Ferguson's snores. She started down the stairs, Jay right behind her. Now she could see the top of Mr. Ferguson's head, propped against the back of the sofa. She took another step, and the snoring stopped. Mr. Ferguson grunted, then sat up and scratched and stretched. He yawned loudly and then leaned back again. Dina and Jade froze. Then, still as quickly as possible, they turned around and went back up the stairs and down the hall. By the time they got to Mr. Ferguson's office, Dina's hands were shaking. She backed into the office, followed by Jade, and collided with the metal wastebasket. The wastebasket fell with a clutter. Almost immediately, Mr. Ferguson growled from downstairs. "What the devil?" he said. Dina and Jade stared at each other with wide, frightened eyes. Quickly, Jane turned the wastebasket right side up in the closet. She hissed to Dana. Now Dina could hear Mr. Ferguson's footsteps climbing the stairs. He didn't seem to be in any hurry, but his steps sounded heavy, and she remembered how big he was. She slipped into the closet, Jade right behind her. They got as far back in as they could, behind some coats and shirts. The footsteps came closer. Then there was a click, and a sliver of light appeared under the closet door. "Hello," mumbled Mr. Ferguson. "Is someone here?" They heard him walk around the office, muttering to himself. Then his footsteps retreated, and they could hear him walking down the hall to check the other room. He moved around a bit more, and the girls heard a heavy creaking as he settled himself at his desk. For a moment, there was no sound. Then a bellow broke the silence. "Hey," Mr. Ferguson said out loud. I, how these drops of water get all over everything." Then suddenly a chair scraped back, and the heavy footsteps across the room. The closet door swung open. Dina blinked against the light, unable to see anything. But then she saw Mr. Ferguson, his angry face staring directly at her. His expression changed slowly. The anger faded and was replaced by a cruel, mocking smile. "Well, well, girls," he said. "Just can't stay away, can you?" Y'all, they done got caught. They done got caught in this house with this unaliver. Y'all. Chapter 22. Y'all, the brother told her not to go. He told her not to go. Y'all. Chapter 22. Dina was so terrified she couldn't move or think. And then Jade let out an ear-splitting scream. Mr. Ferguson stepped back in surprise, and Jade rushed out of the closet, pushing past him. She sprinted across the room, but he was faster and blocked the door with his body. Dina peeked out of the closet to see Jade standing behind Mr. Ferguson's desk, her cheeks flushed and her eyes bright with excitement and fear. "Let us go," Jade said. "We know everything about you." "I doubt that," he said, not seeming worried at all. He crossed his arms and continued to lean against the door frame. "We know you're a liar," Jade went on. "We know you're a unaliver. You unalived your wife." Ferguson's eyes narrowed, but then his face relaxed again. "You shouldn't make nasty assumptions like that," he said, "especially not when I just caught you breaking into my house for the second time. I warned you," Jade went on. "You'd better let us go, or what, Mr. Ferguson?" said nastily, nastily. Um, Dina hopelessly continued to watch, admiring her friend for standing up to Mr. Ferguson, but she could see Jade had run out of threats. Quick as a cat, Mr. Ferguson grabbed Jade by the wrist. "Let me go," she screamed. She picked up an ashtray with her free hand and swung it at Mr. Ferguson, but it slipped harmfully from her fingers and shattered to the floor. Mr. Ferguson grabbed her other wrist, and she screamed again. "So you like to play rough, do you?" he said. Fascinatedly, Dina searched for anything or any way to help her friend. "Let her go," she yelled. She threw her flashlight at Mr. Ferguson, catching him on the shoulder, but he only grunted and held on more tightly to Jade. Jade tried to scratch and bite Mr. Ferguson, but he easily held her off. Suddenly, suddenly tearing of her, he shook her. Suddenly tiring of her, he shook her. "All right," he said. "Enough playing around. It's time to teach you girls a lesson." He slammed Jade hard against the desk. He gasped, then screamed again. "Run, Dina! Get help!" Dina didn't want to leave Jade, but there was no way she could fight Mr. Ferguson. She fled from the room down the stairs. Behind her, she could hear Jade and Mr. Ferguson continue to struggle. At the foot of the stairs, she paused a moment. Y'all, deciding where could she go for help. The nearby house all seemed to be deserted. Her eyes fell on the phone. Better to call the cops from here, she thought. She picked up the phone, started to dial, and got nothing but air. Too late, she remembered that the phone was out. This had all started with a phone call, she thought, and it might end because she couldn't make one. At a heavy footstep, she turned to find Mr. Ferguson standing right behind her. "Phoning for pizza?" he asked. Dina stared at him, her heart pounding in her throat. "Where's Jade?" he asked, backing away. "Taking a little nap, he might say, said Mr. You might say, said Mr. Ferguson. "And I make and I make sure she just love for you to keep her company. And I'm sure she just loves for you to keep her company." Dina backed up slowly, then on an impulse spun around and sprinted toward the kitchen. But Mr. Ferguson was right behind her. Desperately, she reached for something, anything to use as a weapon. Her hand closed on the handle of an iron frying pan, and she gripped it tightly. Mr. Ferguson's big body is sofa sofa because of the light, softened because of the light of, of the light behind him, lumbered slowly, limbered slowly toward her, her hands outstretched like those of a movie monster. This is a nightmare, Dina thought. This can't be happening to me. But she wasn't dreaming, and Mr. Ferguson proved it the next instant when he lunged at her. With a little shriek, she spun the pan swung the pan as hard as she could and felt it connect. He let out a roar of rage and pain, then grabbed the other end of the pan and began to twist. The rough metal cut her the rough metal cut her fingers, and she had to let go. Mr. Ferguson reached out, grabbed her shoulder, and picked her up as easily as if been a doll. "You little idiot. You cut my hand. You cut my hand with with that frying pan, he said. Who would have thought two girls could cause me so much trouble? Dina struggled, but it was no use. She had started to cry and tried to stop but couldn't. He carried her into the living room and set her down at the bottom of the stairs, closing his hand on her arm like a vice. Come on, he said. I don't care if I break your arm. He started up the stairs, half leading and half dragging her, and had to walk fast to keep her arm from being pulled out of the socket. In the hall upstairs, he stopped in front of the first door she and Jade had opened, the one to the bedroom. He reached in his pocket, searching for a key. The door wasn't locked before. Dina remembered. Was Jade in there? She didn't have time to think about it just for a moment he let her go while he unlocked the door. Dina knew this was her last chance. She began to run down the hall, but Mr. Ferguson was fast for such a big man. He tackled her, throwing her to the floor on her back. She fought as hard as she could, struggling desperately. She heard a ripping noise as Mr. Ferguson tore her poncho up the middle and pulled it back so her arms were tapered beside her. Y'all. Hey Cherokee. Thanks for coming in. Y'all. This big old man got these girls up in his house, y'all. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That was chapter 22, y'all. So they decided to go back to the house, trying to find some evidence to get Chuck out of lockup, y'all. The man comes home. And now he got both of them. Y'all. How you doing tonight, Cherokee? I'm reading this, y'all. Let's see what happened. Let's see what happened. Y'all, I'm so into this. I think I'm gonna finish this book tonight because I gotta see what's gonna happen now. I got to see what's gonna happen now. Okay, chapter 23, y'all. I'm totally trapped, Dina thought. What is he going to do to me now? Hey, what's this? He said. The torn poncho revealed the letter in her wristband. He snatched it out, and his face grew even angrier. So he said, this is what you were after? Quickly, he pulled Dina to her feet and pushed her into the bedroom. Then he followed her in, slammed the door, and stood still for a moment, breathing hard. Dina had fallen against one of the brewers. Y'all. She pulled herself to sitting position and looked around. Jade was lying crumpled at the foot of the bed. Jade, she cried in horror. The still form didn't move. Jade, this time Dina screamed it. You've unalived my friend. She yelled at Mr. Ferguson. She was so frightened and angry she couldn't hardly breathe. She's just knocked out, he said. I wouldn't be surprised if she's playing possum. I didn't hit her hard enough to unalive her, not yet. On the bed, Jade moaned. Dina struggled with the poncho and finally twisted free of it. Then she went to her friend. A nasty bruise was forming on Jade's forehead, and she was very pale. But after a moment, her eyes fluttered open. Dina cried. Jade cried, Dina, Jade, are you all right? My head hurts, said Jade. What's happening? Oh, he grasps as she saw Mr. Gasped as she saw Mr. Ferguson still standing in front of the door. He was holding the letter in one hand, trapped it tapped it against the other, stuff dripping from the cut where Dina had been hit. He found our proof, said Dina. Still crying. I'm sorry, Jade. What I found was a letter that belongs. What you found was a letter that belongs to me," said Mr. Ferguson. "Something you girls were trying to take. I've I I've half a mind to turn you girls over to the police." For a moment, Dina felt a surge of hope. Maybe he wasn't going to do anything terrible to them. Maybe he would just turn them over to the police. At least then they'd be safe. "Tell me what you think you know, girls," Ferguson said. "We don't know anything," Dina said quickly. "Oh, is that so?" Ferguson said, his eyes narrowing. "Hey, I'm not playing games here. Tell me what you think you know." He took a step toward them. "I don't mind hurting you to get the answer." "You know already," said Dina, angry again. She felt that Mr. Ferguson was playing with them the way a cat plays with a mouse. "You unalived your wife." "I'm okay. I just got home from work." "Okay, good, good, good." For 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 her money. You tried to make it look like a burglary." For a moment, Mr. Ferguson didn't speak. Then he straightened as if he'd made a decision. "Well, you girls are real smart," he said. "Too smart for your own good. I've got to take care of myself now." "What do you mean?" whispered Jade. "I mean, maybe you were right about everything," he said. "Maybe I unalived Edna." Dina felt cold all over. He wouldn't be confusing if he wouldn't be confessing if he wasn't going to let her if he was going to let her go. Wait a minute. If he was going to let her and Jade go. The only thing she could think to do was keep him talking. By time by time somehow. "You unalive her and convince the police it was Chuck?" she asked. A strange smile formed on Ferguson's face. When you were when you three kids showed up that night, it was like pennies from heaven. You brought me even more time. You bought me even more time to do what I had to and get away. I'm grateful to you. If you want to know, you can still get away," Dina said quickly. "Jade and I won't say anything to anyone till after your plane leaves tomorrow." "Nice, nice try," said Ferguson. "I thought about it. Thought about just leaving you locked up here till it's time to go, but you know too much. I can't take a chance on your stopping me. Take a chance on your stopping me." "Wait," said Dina. "What about it was too late." Mr. Ferguson had backed out of the door. "Don't go away now," he said, grinning nastily. He slammed the door, and Dina heard the keys turning in the lock. Her footsteps faded down the hall. His footsteps faded down the hall. Y'all. So basically, he letting them know, yeah, he did all that, and now y'all know too much, y'all. Mm-mm-mm. Why did they go? Chuck told them not to go to that house. Her brother told her not to go. Chapter 24, y'all. Dina ran to the door and tried to open it just in case, but the knob wouldn't turn. Come on, she said to Jade. We've got to get out of here. But how? Said Jade. That way, Dina pointed to the window, remembering when I tried to shut the window before, and a branch was in the way. That big old tree is really close to the house, maybe only a couple of feet away. Are you saying we should climb down? Asked Jade. We don't have a choice, Jade. He's going to unalive us. She lifted the window latch and began to push, but the window was stuck. Hurry, Dina, said Jade. He's coming back. Now Dina could hear Mr. Ferguson's footsteps on the stairs too. Y'all. Why did why did I ever want to shut this window? Dina moaned. She pushed as hard as she could, but nothing happened. We've got to we've got to slow him down, said Jade, breathe, breathing, breathlessly. That's it. Breathlessly, y'all. Come help me. Dina watched as Jade pushed against a heavy chest of drawers. She ran to help her friend. With both girls pushing as hard as they could, the heavy object began to move slowly across the floor. Outside the door, the sound of Mr. Ferguson's approaching footsteps echoed. Hurry, said Jade again. The chest moved inch by inch. The stopped against the door just as Mr. Ferguson's key slid into the lock. Dina's dart back to work on the window. There was a thumping sound as Mr. Ferguson tried to open the door and found the brewery blocking the way. Dina's heart Dina heard him cursing loudly. Then there was a tremendous thud as Mr. Ferguson threw himself against the door. The chest moved an inch or two. The door was open far enough now for Mr. Ferguson to stick his arm through. You can't keep me out, he said from the other side of the door, and he began to laugh, a chilling laugh. With renewed desperation, both girls pushed on the window again, and this time it spun open. Dina looked out. 4 feet below the window was a limb thick enough to hold both girls. The branch near the window were too thin to offer much of a handhold. The tree was still slippery with water. The brewery gave a sudden launch. If Mr. Ferguson had been any smaller, he could have burst into the room at that moment. Move, Dina, she cried, her voice filled with terror. Dina took a deep breath, and climbed into the windowsill. She turned around and gripped the sill with her fingers, swung out and down. With relief, she felt her feet touch the limb below, and she let go of the windowsill, sagging against the trunk. Gratefully, she wrapped one arm around the rough bark and held the other out to Jade. Seconds after Jade joined Dina in the tree, Mr. Ferguson appeared in the window. You won't get away, he snarled, and he immediately disappeared. He's coming outside, Jade whispered. Quick, climb down. Dina looked down and realized they were much higher than they had thought. The next branch was just beyond her reach. Why didn't I ever learn gymnastics? She asked herself. I can't, she told Jade. It's too slippery and too far. I'm taller, said Jade. I'll try. Then, then if oh, her eyes grew wide with a new fear. In the light from the kitchen window, both girls could now see Mr. Ferguson walking toward the tree. He was holding something long and bulky, and when he got closer, Dina realized that it was a chainsaw. Oh my goodness. Oh no, moaned Joan. I don't believe it. He can't use a chainsaw at night, Dina said in the disbelief. He'll wake everyone on Fear Street. Is he crazy? Yes, Jade whispered, he is. I mean, he's gone over the edge. Just look at his eyes. Dina squint, squinted down and saw what Jade meant. Mr. Ferguson's face still looked mean and angry. Y'all, I can't believe all this now. Y'all. Let me see. Now there was Now there was something else there, a, a wildness that revealed he was out of control. The white of his eyes were huge in the dim light. Once again, he let out a terrifying laugh. Dina shivered. How somehow this new Mr. Ferguson was even scarier than the man who'd been threatening them. He started to rev up the saw. Just before the deafening roar blotted out all over the other sounds, Dina thought she heard a high-pitched wail. The tree began to vibrate as Mr. Ferguson cut into it with the power saw. Dina and Jade held on to the trunk as tightly as they could to keep from being shaken off and into a whispering, wailing blade of the chainsaw. He'll 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 saw right through it, and he'll saw right through it in no time, Lena cried, almost slipping off the branch. We're going to fall, Jay said. Look down. Down below, Ferguson pulled back the chainsaw, revved it up again, and glared up at the girls, turned the blade to the tree, and saw the saw made a deafening grinding sound as it ate deeper into the tree. Sawdust and wood chips flew all around. Dina heard a crackling sound. We're going down, she cried. Oh my goodness, y'all. That was chapter 25. Y'all, this man is, he trying to get them so bad, he didn't went and got a chainsaw and he cutting down the tree that they didn't got out of the window in, y'all. Y'all. Chapter 25. Mm-mm-mm. Suddenly, Jade grabbed Dina's arm. Look. She mounted the words. Dina turned her head. There in the distance, coming from the direction of Mill Road, was the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. The flashing red lights of police cars. Another crackling sound. The tree began to tilt. Help was on the way, but would it arrive in time? In the next instant, everything seemed to happen at once. The tree tilted even far further. Dana closed her eyes and held tightly to the trunk, expecting each moment to be her last. Then suddenly the yard filled with an eerie, flashing, glowing as police cars pulled up to the house. A police officer ran across the lawn, his gun out in front of him with relief. Dina recognized Detective Frazier. His gun flashed once, then twice more. Mr. Ferguson stood shocked still, then jerking toward and fell, the chainsaw still roaring in his hand. Quickly, the detective ran to Ferguson and shut the machine off. The relief from the noise and vibration was startling, and in the sudden silence, Dina wondered for a moment if she had gone deaf. You girls okay? Detective Morrell was under the tree, peering up at them. Behind him, Detective Frazier and the ununiformed police were bent over Mr. Ferguson. Try not to move, Morrell said. I'll get you I'll get you a ladder. Dina was so relieved she felt weak all over. She looked at Jade and could see she felt the same way. Both girls were crying tears of relief, and it was only then the tree swayed again that Dina realized they were still in trouble. The yard was now filled with the voice of shouting and men, the sounds of motors running and radios squeaking through the dense leaves. Dina could see someone speaking into a walkie-talkie, and beyond him, could it be her father and Chuck? Detective Morris had arrived with a tall stepladder, and he climbed it. It well well as a uniformed police held it steady. He reached out for Dina first. Gratefully, she put her arms around his neck and relaxed as he carried her down the ladder. A minute later, he returned with Jade. Just as he was setting her on the ground, someone shouted, "Look out!" Slowly at first, then more quickly, the tree toppled to the ground as long branches smashed into the ground floor window in the back of Mr. Morrison's house. Dina looked at it for a moment. Her heart thuttered in her chest, and then she passed out. Y'all, they got it. The police got there and they got him out the tree. That man was trying to get them, okay? He was trying to get them. Y'all, chapter 26. Oh my goodness. When Dina woke up a few minutes later, she was laying on someone's coat on Mr. Ferguson's porch. Next to Jade was sitting cross-legged, holding a cloth on her forehead. The next to her, Chuck was hunkered down, glazing at Jade with a tender smile. Dina struggled to sit up in a sit-up position, then looked around, not believing her eyes. Detective Fraser and Morrell, three uniformed cops, and her father were all gathered around the porch, staring at her and Jade. "How are you, sweetheart?" asked her father. He leaned down and gave her a quick hug. "Daddy," she said. "And Chuck, what happened?" Chuck grinned his goofy grin at her. "It's kind of a long story," he said. "Where's Mr. Ferguson?" Dina asked him. "Over there," said Fraser, pointing to the side yard. "He's wounded, but he'll probably recover to stand trial." He leaned back on the porch and railing and crossed his arms. "It looks as if you girls have quite a story to tell," he said. "Well, we're waiting for an ambulance. Why don't you tell us what you're doing here?" "We were trying to find out what we could about Mr. Ferguson," Dina said. "And what did you find out?" Miss Fraser's face was blank, and Dina had no idea what he was thinking. He unalived his wife," said Jade. "He did it for her money." "You're sure of this?" said Fraser. Beside him, Detective Morrell had started to take notes. "Look in Mr. Ferguson's pocket," said Dina. "He has a letter from his wife saying she was leaving him, and he has a plane reservation for South America. Besides, said Jade, he told us he did it." Dina noticed that Jade's voice was no longer dull, but strong, and that her face had some of that old spark in it. "You say Ferguson told you he unalived his wife?" said Fraser. "Did he happen to mention why?" His voice sounded faintly sarcastic, and Dina suddenly felt angry. His his wife had a lot of money, Dina said, her voice showing how she felt. She wasn't going to let him have any more of it. Besides, he was having an affair with his assistant, Linda Morrison. Just how did you girls come by all this information? Fraser asked, turning back to the porch. We looked for it, said Jade, sounding bitter. We went to where Mr. Ferguson worked and to Miss Morrison's house, and then we came here. You took an awful chance, said Fraser. Don't you think that was a job for the police? Of course it was, said Dina, but you wouldn't listen to anything we said. We knew Chuck was innocent, and we knew his only hope was for us to find the truth. To Dina's surprise, Mr. Fraser smiled. I guess I should tell you, Ferguson has been our number one suspect for some time, he said. You've just been we've just been waiting till we could get proof. We've been waiting, Dana stammered. But what about Chuck? All this time you've had him locked up? Take it easy, Dina, said Chuck. It's okay. How can it be okay? Protested Dina. If the police knew all along that you were innocent, how could they have? We didn't know for sure, Detective Fraser interrupted. You see, Ferguson was clever to involve you kids. Finding Chuck's prints on the knife threw us off at first. But then we started watching Ferguson. We didn't have any evidence. We didn't want him to know he was a suspect. You kept my brother in locked up for a week just a to help your investigation. Dina was so angry she felt like throwing something. Hey Dina, take it easy, said Chuck. Let Detective Morris explain. No, I'll explain, said Mr. Martinson. Dina studied her father, wondering if anyone had gone crazy. My lawyers arranged to get Chuck out of on bail on Wednesday. Hold on, y'all. Well, please do. Go ahead.
They finna cut.
I know. Well, just
they gonna set me out.
hold on, cause I ain't got much. I ain't got much to go.
Are you almost done with the book?
Mhm. I was into it.
Oh man. Okay.
My lawyer arranged to get Chuck out. That was King Zachariah telling me something, y'all. My lawyers arranged to get Chuck out on bail on Wednesday, Dina's father said, but Detective Fraser explained the situation to me. He told me there was a better chance of arresting Ferguson if he continued to think Chuck was the main suspect. And you agreed? Dana remembered how Chuck had looked when she visited him in that place. Now desperate and how frightened. Now suddenly she was furious at her father, as furious as she was at the detectives. Mr. Martinson looked embarrassed and shrugged. It was only for a couple of days, he said. Chuck would have gotten out tomorrow anyway. I wanted to help the police, and I thought it might teach Chuck a lesson. It's okay, Dad, Chuck said. I think I understand. He had one hand on the back of Jade's neck, and Dina thought he was a different person from the boy who had come to Shadyside less than 3 weeks earlier. His face looked older, more serious. All trace of bitter and snares had disappeared. An ambulance sped down Fear Street, then turned into the driveway. Detective Frazier and Morrison went over to assist the paramedics. Dina and Jay watched as they loaded Mr. Ferguson into a stretcher and then put him in the ambulance. I can't believe it's over, said Dina. Believe it, said Chuck. Thanks to everything you and Jay did, the police know the truth. They know I'm innocent, and they have the evidence against Mr. Ferguson to put him behind bars for life. The ambulance backed out of the driveway and sped back to the mill road, its red lights blinking. The police expert the police experts all seemed to have finished their work and were starting to pack up. Do you need for anything for anything else, Mr. Martinson? Asked Detective Frazier. No, go home, said Detective. But I'll want to talk to the girls again tomorrow. Fine, fine, ready, girls. Dina pulled herself to her feet. You bet, she said, and then she stopped and turned back to the Detective Frazier. There's just one thing I don't understand, she said. What's that? Said Detective Frazier. Nobody knew where we were. How did you get here in time to save us? You got Chuck to thank for that, said Detective Frazier. He tried to call your parents and tell them that what you girls were planning, but he couldn't get through, so he finally called me at home and said he wanted to confess. You what? Said Jay and Dina together, staring at Chuck. Chuck just grinned his goofy grin. I had to see him as soon as possible, he said. It was the only way I could be sure he'd listen to me. Dina and Jade stared at each other, then back at Chuck. Jade started laughing. I don't believe you did that, Chuck, she said, gasping. After everything you promised, after everything we've all been through, what are you talking about? Said Chuck, looking puzzled. I just mean, said Jade, still laughing, that you made another prank phone call. Another prank phone call, y'all. It's crazy. Last chapter. Chapter two. I think this is the last chapter, y'all. Hold on, let me make sure. Because I'm saying it, but it looked like it is. Yeah, last chapter. I'm going to read the last chapter. Monday in school, no one could talk about anything but what had happened. There had been only a brief article in the newspaper about Mr. Ferguson's arrest, but somehow word got out that Dina, Chuck, and Jade had all been involved by lunchtime. The gossip had turned them into heroes. When Dina went to her locker before lunch, she found a traffic jam. It seemed that everyone in school wanted the juicy details. Congratulations, Dina, said Della O'Connor. Did you really help the police solve a unaliving? Corey Brooks wanted to know. Okay, everyone. Take a number, Dina crackled. At at that moment, Lisa Blam came up, her notebook ready. Good morning, Dina, she said. You must feel great. I'm just glad it's all over, Dina said truthfully. I'm ready to write that exclusive, Lisa said. Can we talk after school, Dina said. I'm starving. Well, can you just tell me if it's true that your brother made a fake confession? Lisa persisted. Here he comes now, said Dina, bragging her, bragging her, banging her locker shut. Why don't you ask him yourself? Now Chuck came around the corner, holding hands with Jade. Jade was wearing one of her fabulous multicolored outfit, and she looked gorgeous. She was smiling at Chuck as if she'd never let him out of her sight. Lisa pounced, pronounced immediately, and Dina was surprised to see Chuck grin and start answering her questions. Dina started to walk over to Jade when she saw Rob Morrell walking toward her. Hey, how is it going? He said with a big smile. Hi, Rob, she said, too surprised to feel shy. I I'm I tried to call you this weekend, he said. Now I know why you didn't answer. She just smiled at him, not knowing what to say. The thing is, Rob went on, some of the gang are coming over to my house to watch some tapes. I I like it if you'd come too. I like I like it very much, Dina said, her heart pounding. Great, said Rob. I'll pick you up around 7. And you too, he added to Chuck and Jade. Come on over. Thanks, said Jade. I might have too much homework tonight. I let I'll let you know later. Dina, I'll give you a call after school. Okay, said Dina. The start the started She started to turn down the hall, then stopped. One second thought. She told Jade, I think I've had it with telephones for a while. Maybe you should just send me a postcard. Y'all, that was a good book, if I have to say so myself. Argentine bestseller author in America. He was written more than 100 scary books for young people, all of them bestsellers. His series included Fear Street, Ghosts of Fear Street, and Fear Street Sagas. Bob grew up in Columbia, Ohio. Today he lives in New York City with his wife Jane, his teenage son Matt, and his dog Nydia. Y'all, that was a good book, y'all. Yes, it was. That was a good book, y'all. I really enjoyed that. I hope y'all enjoyed it too. I hope y'all enjoyed it too. Let me see, y'all. Oh, my baby's probably real mad at me because I went on and on and on. I was supposed to do 5 chapters, y'all, but it got too good. I'm sorry, it got too good. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. But I really enjoyed that. I hope y'all enjoyed that too. I gotta get off of here because my babies, they in there like, Mom, it's time for us to eat and you ain't came in here yet. What's going on? What's going on? Okay. But guys, I thank each and every one of y'all for coming and read with me. Hopefully I'll find us something else to read because this was a good one. If you can, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Um, I don't know what's gonna be the next book, so I can't just say right now. But I will be finding us something else. But I think this was really good. If you liked it, if you liked the story, and you done heard the story with me, and you've been through this journey of this book with me, comment down below. Let me know, and maybe give me some ideas of some other books. Libraries are around, so let me know. Let me know. But with that being said, guys, I love you guys. Thank you all for coming. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you know when I'm posting. And make sure you never let nobody tell you that you ain't somebody. I love you, my fave babes. Bye. I don't even know what to push, y'all. I don't even know what to push. Bye, guys. This ain't what I'm supposed to push. Baby, hold on. Hold on, y'all. Bye, guys.